Quite a bit.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vadebonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And it is, how many, I should have a countdown going. I should, as far as how many days until the new movie. It's got to be, it's 26, so it's got 3 months, I guess.
Where's the
October, November,
damn
December.
Trailer?
Yeah,
where is it?
less than
Shouldn't
3
we have
months
had
away.
an uncomfortable football situation where a guy who loves sports forces himself to say words like Ray and Poe?
That's right, and get those stormtroopers down on the football field.
Right, exactly.
Ready to block for the New England Chargers.
I want that awkward day, and I want it now. Wait, was that usually before or after the Force Friday? Force Friday used to be on a September.
And
in September.
Yeah, but it's next week, right? You told me it's next week.
It's October.
Okay.
So when was the football announcement?
I don't remember. I mean, last time they didn't. Did they have a Force Friday for The Last Jedi?
No, they didn't. I don't believe they called it Force Friday.
Okay, so there was a little bit. I think there's only been really one Force Friday, and that was the one for the Force Awakens.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if this one coming up is officially.
Okay,
is
so
it?
not call. I don't know. So, but
I'm just calling it that. Yeah,
it is the day that all the new toys come out, is what you're saying.
Merch galore.
All the toys for the new movie. Lately,
that merch day in Winnipeg, Canada, has not been like the first one was an explosion of goods, and then the second one, Rogue One, was also pretty good, and then Last Jedi was not good. So I don't know if this is going to be anything. Are we going to go? We're going to do our usual, maybe go try to have a look next Friday?
Yeah, or next weekend anyway. I don't know if I'll go out Friday morning.
I might.
I have class at 8 a.m. Friday morning, so I have to.
I think mine's not till 11 or something. So
okay, we'll figure it out. So anyway, but yeah, that's something that's happening. I don't have a clickbait article this week because I wasn't sure actually before we started recording which podcast we were going to do. But the main news this week, there's a couple of different things. Number one, there was the big news that I'm sure, and I'm just going to assume that it was written somewhere in a clickbaity way, just because that's the way people do things on the internet. But the big story is about how Kevin Feige is now going to be working on a Star Wars movie. For sure. Kevin Feige is the producer of all the Marvel movies and widely credited as the person behind the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the person who makes it so successful. And it'll be, actually, we'll have a good litmus test of that when we see the next Spider-Man movie come out. So now that Disney and Disney and Sony are not seeing eye to eye on the Spider-Man franchise, the next one that comes out, meaning the third one in this current series of Spider-Man films, will not be produced by Kevin Feige because he works for Marvel, i.e. Disney, and this will be a Sony-only thing. So it'll be the same director, same actors, but
bizarre. Without
any Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff, so no Nick Fury or anything like that. No Happy Hogan, which is going to be weird. No Jon Favreau. He was a big part of that. Have you seen that movie, by the way?
No, I have not seen it.
He's a big part of it. He's in it
I
quite
will
a bit.
see it. I think it's on video October 1st.
I believe it's coming out very soon, yeah.
So next week.
Check it out.
I'll see it next week.
Happy Hogan is a big part of that. But we'll see if it's not as good as the other two, then clearly Kevin Feige has the magic touch, as it were. So how do you feel about him doing a Star Wars movie?
Well, when I saw this news, one thing that Star Wars tried to do originally and had limited success, let's say, was and limited is all relative, of course, in Star Wars. In Star Wars, if you only make $500 million around the world, something's gone horribly wrong. So it's all right. Let's start with that.
Any other movie is completely successable, but Star Wars, holy crap, what the bomb.
Downton Abbey makes 1/1,000,000th of it, and it's like the biggest hit the generations have ever wanted. But it's because the expectation for Downton Abbey, sorry to bring it back to Downton Abbey, but the expectation was low, and it made $30 million, and that was a raging hit. So in Star Wars universe, it's not the same thing. But however, I believe that what we were trying to do originally, and Lord knows where we're at with that, but was to piece together Star Wars Cinematic Universe, not just the way Marvel does it, but back and forth in time. So we had Force Awakens, then we went back in time for Rogue One, then we went forward again for Last Jedi, and then back in time for Solo, and maybe this was all gonna, maybe an appearance of a thing in this movie in the past would lead to an appearance in the next movie in the future.
Go back, we had all these theories about this back when they were doing this, right in the middle of all this.
Yeah.
We had theories about whether or not we were going to see like the what's his face as Aldenreich as Han Solo in another movie, in the Boba Fett movie, when they were supposed to be doing a Boba Fett movie.
Yeah.
That became the Mandalorian, clearly.
I think so.
The Obi-Wan rumored Obi-Wan movie became the Obi-Wan series on Disney Plus. So these things have kind of evolved as they go along into different types of media. But yeah, like I don't know. The story here is that he is working on it, and a major actor, quote unquote major Hollywood actor, is interested. They have a role picked out for him. I'm going to assume it's a guy. I'm just going to assume that because it's Hollywood.
Who knows?
But they have a major Hollywood player involved or interested in this, and that's all we really know at this point.
Brad Pitt. Who would it be?
I don't know.
Who would the dream? George Clooney would be the dream, wouldn't it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we need to see somebody that famous in this kind of a thing. I was going to say Robert Downey Jr. Now that they killed...
you genius, you! I think you got it.
No, now that they killed...
He's gonna reach into his connections.
Who's that? Feige?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the entire...
Yeah.
We watch... we were talking about PSAs this week.
And who just left that franchise?
Robert Downey Jr. Spoiler
Thank
alert.
you.
We watch this when I do PSAs in my classes. We watch this kind of fake PSA. It's a real PSA, but it's done by it's making fun of all the celebrity voiced PSAs that you see.
Mm-hmm.
Get a whole bunch of celebrities together, and in it is it's Robert Downey Jr., pretty much Scarlett Johansson, everybody from the Marvel Cinematic Universe is involved. So clearly, it was just somebody who knew all these people, got them all together, and so those kind of connections we could see these actors pop into the Star Wars universe as well.
I think Robert Downey Jr. is a wonderful guess. Way to go, because I was like Brad Pitt, George Clooney. No. Wrong.
RDJ.
I think I have a good feeling that what you just said is if they haven't thought of that, they will think of that.
Well, maybe like he might miss the security of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know. Who knows what he's going to do next?
I saw some haters for this online. Because it's the Marvel fans. Like, it's kind of weird because to me, I like the Marvel movies. I don't like them as much as I like the Star Wars universe. That's just my personal preference. But I don't go out of my way to like go, death to Ant-Man or anything like that. Like, I just don't care enough to do that. But there seem to be, the Marvel fans want to keep their precious in place. And it's almost like, remember when JJ said, Oh, yeah, I love Star Trek. Always liked it. And then he's like, but I'm going to leave to do Star Wars. And then to Trekkies, that was like an admission that one's better than the other.
Come on. I would have done the exact same thing in his position.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of both. You are a fan of both. We're just, you know what? It's okay to like both Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yes, it's okay. You don't have to be a hater for all other franchises.
It's the Star Trek fans who don't like Star Wars. Those are the people who kind of vocalize that type of opinion.
That has a history of Star Trek was the only game in town forever, and then Star Wars came around and stole all its thunder. But that
different medium that was film. It was not TV.
It was very different. And then
you can't compare the two.
I remember going to see the Star Trek motion picture and going, I hope it's not as good as Star Wars because I like Star Wars so much. and it really wasn't. But and that's when I realized, don't hope for failure, because there I am sitting watching a Star Trek film going, this is so boring. Like, who cares? Who's Persis Kambata and why is she morphing into the Voyager whatever? V'ger. And I knew it was Voyager and I was 13 years old. So yeah. It was like this is the easiest puzzle to solve ever. It was like easier than the puzzle before the movie, where they're like, identify whose face this is. Hint: he plays Indiana Jones. Like all of those. That was like that's the 2-hour equivalent of that. But I remember hoping for death to Star Trek as a Star Wars fan, and then being so horrible, like going, okay, well, I got what I wanted, and it was terrible. So you should just hope for the best for all the franchises.
You should always hope for a good experience when you go to the movies, because you're shelling out however much money for the ticket and the popcorn and the D-box and all that other crap. So you want to make sure your money is well spent. There's nothing worse than coming out of a bad movie in the theater. At least at home, you can if it's a bad Netflix movie, you can turn it off.
I was also going to say, back to the original point, which I never got around to, and that is, do you think they're But I always want to say Kevin Feige because we live in Canada. Kevin Feige.
Feige.
Yeah, I know, but it looks French, so and I'm Canadian, so
okay.
I go default. Default is Jean Chrétien accent. Every time you see,
Tabernacle.
The little boy from Shawinigan.
The Shawinigan handshake.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, we had a prime minister once choke people to death, just so everybody knows. But recently.
He didn't ask the president of Ukraine to look into
thing,
but he did choke a guy.
Oh, there's a podcast. I'm really enjoying that, by the way. But anyway, speaking of so do you think they're bringing him in to do what the original, what sort of didn't work for Star Wars, which is to create the multiverse moving forward for Star Wars?
No.
Do for Star Wars what you did for Marvel, pal, and set it up with one movie to start with.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think so. No, because Bob Iger, we're going to get to Bob Iger in a second, but he has said in the past, I believe he was quoted recently as saying that they tried to do too much too fast with Star Wars. They got too excited. That was the point of the the standalone films, the anthology films, or whatever you want to call them, Solo and Rogue One. And they aim for every 2 years with the saga films, which is even that is accelerated from what it used to be. It used to be every 3 years, right? For the other two trilogies, we got them every 3 years. But basically, they just try to give us a Star Wars movie every year. And then with Solo, they even tightened that up even more and moved it to every 6 months, and nobody liked that. So they backed off on that, and they're going to be, again, they're distributing this content through the Disney Plus streaming service. They have other means to kind of tell these stories. So I don't think they're going to Marvelize the Star Wars universe. Maybe they want to tie it together. Okay, so maybe in a way, if they want to have the films tie together the way the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies tie together, then yes, but not in the way that Marvel releases 3 movies a year, and they have for a while now, and that's going to be the plan for a while, and everyone seems to be okay with that. Star Wars is never going to release 3 movies every year. That's never going to be the case. We may get back to 1 per year. I think that would be okay, 1 per year, but
hang on a second, because Mandalorian.
It's not a movie.
Yes, it is. Sort of. The Rise of Skywalker, Obi-Wan. Probably all 1 year.
Obi-Wan will be next year, within the year maybe. No, but actually.
Oh, how about Dash Rendar? No, Cassian Andor.
No, let's do a Dash Rendar series. That would be awesome.
I know Steele Saunders wants that.
Oh man, that would be so cool.
Doesn't he bring up Dash Rendar at every turn?
He does.
I don't know. I don't think he's being legit when he said.
He was also live tweeting images from. Did you see this on his Facebook page or on Facebook, not Twitter? But he was live posting, like he was watching Attack of the Clones and like taking screenshots and recording. Like the scene where they're romping in the meadows together and all that other stuff. And he's like, beautiful, just beautiful, like totally sarcastic. But anyway, the Cassian Andor series, that is going to be coming next. That is after The Mandalorian because that's already in the works.
I'm excited
for the Obi-Wan will be down the road. Maybe not even next year, maybe 2021.
I think the Obi-Wan movie is going to be very much anticipated, whereas a Cassian Andor... TV series. Cassian Andor, I think, less anticipation and excitement, but it has the prospect to be incredible.
It does. Like when it would be another one taking place in that little time frame of like between episodes 3 and 4. So it kind of lets us explore that area. Although we've been there quite a bit lately.
What doesn't need to happen is that we always say the Star Wars universe is very small. People running into each other and like, little Greedo. Yeah, that was supposed to be Greedo, but then it wasn't.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff. And it's like, we just happened to, and then in comic books, it's like, oh, did you know that Dash Rendar flew the Millennium Falcon once? Like you get all that crap.
Yeah.
And then, and it just becomes what I don't want them to do is go, Cassian Andor met the Mandalorian and he was friends with Obi-Wan on Tatooine. Like, let's not oversaturate that.
That can't happen, by the way. The Mandalorian takes place after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Cassian Andor died in the Rogue One, so that he dies before any of that stuff happens.
Well, the world between worlds has yet to be introduced.
I think is more likely is that we see the young Han Solo meet with Cassian Andor in that series, and we have Aaron Allenbright, whatever his name is, pop in there, or even Donald Glover as Lando. That wouldn't be too bad. But that kind of stuff could happen in that series because that's the same time frame. I don't know.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. I just don't want it. I don't want it too piled on all of that. The stuff that we tend to be okay with in comics when it seeps its way into the movies.
Well, again, we're okay with it in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well.
Yeah, like, but there's and there too, I would say, like, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not perfect or pristine by any stretch. It's good, and the way they plan ahead. I mean, really, it's a miracle of planning. It's what that whole universe is. It's very well planned out by the guy we're talking about.
Yes, and you know, when DC tried to do the same thing, they tried to rush it, and it did not work out as well. They tried to cram too much into one movie several times. The Justice League and the Batman versus Superman movies were both like that, and that was, you know, that didn't work out too well. So I don't know. I think that we'll see what happens. We don't know. We've got the Rian Johnson trilogy. We've got the dudes from Game of Thrones doing a trilogy or more, maybe.
Well, who the hell even knows what's still on?
Well, exactly. You know? Yeah, that's right. So those have been announced. But they have canceled this stuff in the past. Yeah. And then we've got Kevin Feige producing a film. So that's potentially 7 movies upcoming that we don't know what they're about. That's the real question here. What are they going to be about? It's bizarre.
And every time I noticed one of the people involved with that stuff announces a new project, all the speculation is the Star Wars one won't go ahead. So there's so much of that going on right now that it would be nice. I think we need that updated timeline that Lucasfilm likes to show us.
Well, Marvel likes to show us that.
Yeah, whoever, Disney. So, you know, like give us the new, where does everything fit in and what year does it come out?
They did that. Marvel did that I believe they did that at D23.
Yeah, but let's have
it for Star Wars.
Like, what's Rian Johnson been working on after his well-received film called The Last Jedi?
Oh no, he's got another. He's got that
Clue movie.
Yeah.
It looks like Clue, but it isn't.
Yeah, that's coming out soon.
It looks like Clue meets Death Becomes Her, and it's a who's who of celebrities. And it's Agatha Christie style. Yes. Somebody did it, and you can't leave this house.
Right.
And there's a bumbling investigator, and who knows?
Okay.
Somebody gets murdered.
The butler did it.
That's right.
The butler always does it.
Maybe they're going to try to do the Clue thing where the ending of the movie is different depending on the theater you go to.
Yeah.
That never worked out. Hey, let's have a Star Wars with choose your own ending. Oh. Let's have a Star Wars.
Bandersnatch, yeah.
Star Wars.
Well, it's interesting because the one thing, I don't know how much Kevin Feige had to do with the Netflix Marvel properties, which have all been canceled now because obviously if they're going to explore that any further, they're going to go on Disney Plus. Although I think we have a Loki one. There's a couple different Marvel ones, but it's not all these current ones. Hawkeye, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage, and all these current ones are now done. Daredevil's done, even though it was pretty good. I would argue Daredevil certainly had another season left in it. The other ones I kind of fell off. Actually, never watched. I did not watch the rest of Jessica Jones or
me neither.
What's the one with the kung fu guy?
Oh, Iron Fist.
Iron Fist.
I was excited about that one.
I know.
It went nowhere.
Well, again, but once I found out they're canceling them, I'm like, there's no point in watching this because they're not going to finish the story. So I don't know how much Kevin Feige had to do with that, or if he's going to be brought in to kind of coordinate between the Disney Plus series and the films as well. Right? That could be something we could be looking at as well. I don't know. But yeah, we'll see. Robert Downey Jr. starring as
Jedi.
A Jedi in oh man, that would be hilarious.
Knights of the Old Republic.
He just does the Tony Stark. Just does the Tony Stark thing all the time. That's just what he does now.
Maybe he's Tony Stark. He'll play Tony Stark in Knights of the Old Republic.
Builds his armor. Builds new Jedi armor.
Yeah, well, this stuff is all very exciting.
It's fine.
I just get excited for future Star Wars properties, and I love the universe and look forward to all that.
Yeah.
But as long as we don't I don't want it to become, as I say, like that piled heavy, coincident filled. Maybe that's what Star Wars is now. I'm not even sure, but I just want nice stories that build on what came before, and that makes me happy.
So Bob Iger is in the news this week because his book came out. Are you going to read his book?
That's funny. I have so many books on my book pile to read that I did not consider it, but it's possible.
I really don't have an interest because there's only one aspect of Bob Iger that I'm interested in, and I'm sure the book covers way more than just that. I mean, he does talk about Star Wars, and that's what we're going to discuss right now.
So it's not the part where he grows up and has a paper route.
No,
you're not interested.
No, I do not care. I've heard that a million times.
I know, that's my least favorite part of every bio. Well, you know how every bio starts? It starts with the most exciting thing. And then chapter 2 is simple beginnings or whatever.
Right,
And it's
right.
like, oh, God. In 1967, the newspaper, and you just want to die.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's what'll happen in the book.
But the story here is that in the book, he talks about the purchase of Star Wars, the Disney purchase of Star Wars, and how George Lucas provided them with his outlines, his treatments for the next trilogy. And then he discusses how disappointed George Lucas was when he realized they weren't going ahead with those stories, which is kind of interesting. I mean, we knew this. We knew that George Lucas had to be disappointed because they didn't do that. But it's funny how he says the word he uses is betrayed. George felt betrayed, and this whole process would never have been easy for him. We'd gotten off to an unnecessarily rocky start. This is after they purchased.
Yeah, and he also says apparently that that he never told George Lucas, we're going to make the movies in the treatments you've written. He never expressly stated that, and it was not part of the contract. But George Lucas's assumption was, and he said, if we're buying the franchise, we are also buying his story treatments. We're buying all of that. That's part of the price that we're paying for all of this.
But don't you think that implies that you're going to use them if you buy them?
In George Lucas's mind, it did.
Yes.
For sure. Like, if I were George Lucas, I would probably make the same assumption. If I were a weaselly Hollywood studio producer, I would go, hey, he did not make it part of the contract, and we are scot-free. We can do whatever we want. We can take these or leave these. So apparently he left them, which just makes you hungrier to see what they were.
I think, didn't we hear about what they were? Somebody posted that at some point.
Well, at one point, though, George Lucas said, I was going to make movies about midi-chlorians.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, he wasn't.
Oh, well, that's what he said it was.
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. I think that was just him, making fans angry.
Trolling the fans?
Yeah. I think it was a little bit of that. And hey, that might have been an element of it. But he was also going to bring back Luke and Solo and whatever. And I think we also know that he was going to start off with the characters younger than what they were. I think, and I think people were kind of like, we don't want young Anakin again. We don't want that again. So I think that's where he and Disney parted ways. I think.
Again, I guess we'll never know, but yeah, it's certainly. And I mean, think about the meetings that they must have had before that. Obviously, George was having a hard time in general just signing over his life's work like this. I mean, sure, he got paid $4 billion, so he's doing okay. But you invest so much of your life into something like this, and it feels like it's a part of you, so you feel like you should have some sort of input into it. And yeah, I would absolutely assume that if they're going to buy those treatments, they are going to use them. That's why would you buy them if you're not going to use them? But I think they bought them to make him feel better, and then realized, and then kind of decided not to. Maybe they did consider them. I don't know. I mean, obviously Pablo would be a great guy to ask about that. He probably knows, but he'll never talk about it.
No, my guess is even after, there's probably non-disclosure forms that last your entire life.
Yes.
I don't even think he could write a book about it after the fact. I don't think, but who knows? Maybe it's possible. But yeah, it's just interesting as a Star Wars fan to know how that all went down, and this is like a little glimpse into that, which is really interesting. But apparently, Lucas also wasn't a fan of the finished film, The Force Awakens.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's another part of the book where Iger says that after he saw the movie, Lucas said, "Hey, you haven't." It's just we're giving them the same old thing. Do you see that there?
After Lucas saw The Force Awakens in a private screening, Iger reportedly writes he didn't hide his disappointment. There's nothing new, he said. In each of the films in the original trilogy, it was important to him to present new worlds, new stories, new characters, and new technologies. In this one, there weren't enough visual or technical leaps forward. He wasn't wrong, but also wasn't appreciating the pressure we were under to give ardent fans a film that felt quintessentially Star Wars. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that they did present new worlds. I mean, everyone always talks about the big criticism of The Force Awakens is that it is very much like the first film. There's a lot of parallels there. And I think that was their safety. They're playing it safe in that regard. But there were still new characters and new worlds and that kind of stuff.
I think part of what was jarring about that film was the modern style of filmmaking and the
dialogue.
And the speed at which the film kind of progressed and sort of, I think fans also wanted like a deep appreciation of the Force and things like that they were expecting. And when you look at the Star Wars sketchbook from Force Awakens, not sketchbook, what are they called? The Art of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you look through that, you're like, that's what it all looks like. So the stuff that sort of leaked out, all of the drawings and stuff before the movie came out, I think misled fans. I think and I know it sent me in a direction of thinking like, wow, this is going to be like like darker Star Wars and like Lord of the Rings style Star Wars, and sort of I had this sort of image in my mind of what it was going to be. And then all of the questions we had going into Force Awakens based on the trailer, remember? And we came out of there and we're like, they didn't answer any of those questions.
Yeah,
like,
no, I know.
We don't know who Snoke is. We don't
know who Rey is.
We don't really know who Rey. We don't know who her parents are. We don't.
The only thing we got out of it was that Kylo Ren was Han Solo's son. And then Han Solo dies, and that was it. But I think that those were interesting moments and very heartfelt and very emotional. Like, I felt shocked, as shocked as anyone, although we all kind of saw it coming, but it was still an impactful moment in the film. And there are aspects of that film that I absolutely love.
Yeah, I agree.
I like the pacing. I like the modern dialogue. And the jokes are hilarious. There's lots of great jokes in there.
Yeah.
Like, there's lots of great things about The Force Awakens. So it was that like when Lucas found out that they weren't using this, he must have known before that.
I think his first disappointment was learning that they are departing from the treatments, and the second disappointment was sitting down to actually watch the film they made.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, didn't George Lucas visit the set?
He did, yes.
So there's J.J. making his film, and there's the angry curmudgeon who created the universe.
During a meeting when they began to discuss the first movie in the third trilogy, The Force Awakens, Lucas immediately got upset as they began to describe the plot. It dawned on him that they weren't using one of the stories he submitted during the negotiations. So that's when. So early on, very, very early on in the production of that film, he knew.
It's enough of a departure that he was not satisfied. That's interesting too, because I always thought that the departure was mainly they aged the characters, but maybe not. Maybe these are not characters he created. Maybe this is something. Maybe it's all something that he did not envision.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I find that very interesting.
Yep.
You know who could write the book is George Lucas.
I don't think he will.
Oh, that'd be a book, though. Wouldn't it?
It sure would.
I'd love that book.
Yeah.
Well, there's those 3 books on the original trilogy written by Rinsler, I think is his last name. Those 3 making of books. They're beautiful coffee table books. I have all 3, and I read them like multiple times. And I would love to have one of those for the new trilogy, even the prequels. But there's some, I don't think we're thanks to social media, we're now in a world of don't reveal anything. And so I think those books are harder to write. And I think he did write one for Force Awakens that ultimately got shelved.
Really?
That they didn't approve. Yeah, okay. I think so.
Yeah, because you want to hear those. You want to hear about the fighting and the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And I'm sure there are lots of disagreements about the way these films are made and lots of decisions that are made that people sometimes regret.
Yeah.
And, I don't know.
I mean, there's stuff in the Return of the Jedi one about Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher not getting along, and how Harrison Ford's rewriting his lines with George Lucas, and the other actors are kind of on the outside looking in, kind of like, hey, what's going on here? Can we help? Can we do something? And it's sort of like preferential treatment for the big Hollywood star.
Well, because he's also got the other franchise. He's got the Indiana Jones franchise.
Oh, of course.
Like that's,
well, there's a reason, yeah.
Harrison Ford has more pull
in
that set than anybody else.
Right. And at that point, that he was absolutely, like when they first shot Star Wars, he was a guy people recognize. But by the third movie, he was
Indiana Jones,
like one of the biggest movie stars on the planet.
He'd done a few other movies as well.
Yeah,
so for sure.
For sure. Regarding Henry. You know what that was? That was Harrison Ford's first attempt at an Oscar.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh,
they tried to get him. Remember when everybody playing someone with a disease won an Oscar? Yeah. And now it's like cultural appropriation or whatever. Or it's politically incorrect, I guess.
Yeah.
To Dustin Hoffman, let's just say, would not win for Rain Man.
You couldn't do that anymore.
No.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. But back when he did that movie, that was the play. The play was, you're going to play somebody with some kind of disability. Is that how times have changed?
Doesn't he just forget it? He has amnesia in that movie.
Yeah, but it's definitely like there's falling down and shaking, and there's all the stuff that actors love, they love nothing more than to take a pratfall on a set and hit their head against the table.
They love that.
Yeah. Just like George Lucas says in that Rinsler book in Return of the Jedi. They're like, what are we going to do with Han Solo, like in the carbonite? And of course, they're going to kill him if Harrison Ford wasn't going to come back to the franchise.
Right.
But they're like, he's coming back, so what are we going to do? And he's like, I'll just make him blind. Actors love to be blind, play blind. He says, Harrison Ford will love it. Yeah. Actors want nothing more than to play blind. Like, there you go. That's what it was all about.
So this Friday is not this Friday. Next Friday is Force Friday. October 1st. What is the date? October 3rd, 2nd, something like that.
Hang on, let me.
Anyway,
today's the 26th. If that makes
it doesn't make any sense. No,
I'm learning a lot. It's October 4th.
October 4th is Force Friday, and that means we're going to see all the toys released for Rise of Skywalker. Is there anything that you're looking forward to seeing, or anything that you for sure will be buying? For your collection.
Well, to me, actually, I should say this week was my birthday.
Happy birthday!
I'm an old man. Thank you. I'm an old man
who collects toys.
Who got a Star Wars toy for his birthday?
What'd you get?
Caroline bought me she bought it online for a price that I'm unaware of and will never find out, and probably it's better that way. But she got me the Sith Trooper from The Rise of Skywalker of the Comic Con Special Edition, where you pull him out of the package and then you slide out 2 wings of the box, and it's got all the Sith Troopers' weapons in them.
Cool.
Now, what's super cool is also you can the box, when you lift the outer casing, that the figure is. You can touch him like he's not behind plastic. So they're like, hey, we're giving geeks, we're letting them display it and touch their figures at the same time. But one thing I noticed on the Trooper, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Somebody's going to probably go, you moron, that's not what that is. But there's a little hook on the shoulder of the Sith Trooper figure, and it looks to be like, like a camera now that you can put a camera guard.
Body camera, yeah.
It looks like he's got a body cam on his shoulder.
Interesting.
Do you think that's what that is?
That makes it for some interesting scenes. We could do like an Aliens style kind of scene where you see like all the different screens with all the different trooper kind of image. That would be fun. Yeah. Interesting.
So I think that's what that is, but probably someone's going to go, that's where his gun hook's in or something. Like there's probably something like that.
Cool.
So it could be that too. But the figure that I've seen online that to me looks like stunning, and I'm going to have to buy it. I'm sort of out of the figure collecting game unless something very collectible comes along. The Mandalorian figure looks incredible.
I bet.
I was like, holy, come on! I'm gonna have to buy that.
Yeah,
and I think that comes out next Friday.
Awesome.
In addition to the Rise of Skywalker stuff.
And we're going to have all the Lego stuff as well and all the other merchandise. I recommended a couple weeks ago on Media Nerds, I recommended a channel to you on YouTube called Toy Galaxy. Have you had a chance to watch any of that?
I have bookmarked that page, and I have not yet watched it, but I'm going to.
You're going to love it. This guy, his name is Dan something. I don't know what his last... Dan Larson. His last name is Larson.
Is it Larson?
Yeah, it is. It is. But I think it's O-N, not E-N. Anyway, so he does a lot of Star Wars related stuff. He has something going called the Boba Set, and that's S-E-T-T. And he calls it the Boba Set. He has a collection of almost 500 original Kenner Boba Fett figures, and he'll collect them anytime he can find one. He'll buy it and add it to the collection, and that's the one item and there doesn't matter what kind of condition they're in. And he'll have, there you go, Toy Galaxy, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I am subscribed, and I just haven't seen it yet.
So he does do, and if you go back, there's some dated ones. Like he collects the Black Series as well, and he talks about the most desired Black figures. And I think you appreciate a lot of these, even though some of them, I'm sure the figures have been released, but he talks about, like, where's this figure, or that, where's this Luke?
Yeah.
Or look at the sculpt in this Luke. He doesn't look anything like Mark Hamill, and that kind of, he talks about that kind of stuff.
Right.
But there's quite a bit of fun little Star Wars stuff. And then for me, I mean, he also talks a lot about toys in the 80s, and of course every 80s toy was marketed by a cartoon, which is part of my childhood. So he talks a lot about G.I. Joe and Transformers and all these other cartoons and toy lines. So I just find it to be really interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of Star Wars talk on there for sure. Boba Fett is his favorite character and his favorite kind of toy that he collects, and he even has like a Hot Toys Boba Fett. You know what Hot Toys is?
I sure do.
Like that's like the super detailed, super expensive figure. And he's an unboxer too. He unboxes all of it and quote unquote plays with it and poses it and stuff. So he's a guy really passionate about toys, and I think you'd really like it. And anybody listening who likes to collect Star Wars toys or any type of toys really would like to watch this as well. So check out Toy Galaxy.
I'm definitely going to do that, and I'm still not. I've sort of I've seen some of the stuff that's being released next week by mistake more than anything in Instagram.
Like what?
Instagram stuff, like other figures, like other kinds of troopers and stuff are floating around. But I've kind of not. I've sort of made it my business to not, for the first time ever, to kind of, what I see is what I see, and it's fine. But to kind of not know everything that's coming out on Friday. And
Yeah,
just
I'm not. I'm
go
not
down and be
interested in
surprised.
spoiler. Like, I hope that there's nothing that spoils. Like, there's gonna be a ton of articles. I'm sure this figure spoils this part of the movie, and I really don't want to know that kind of stuff. Like, I just want to be able to watch the movie without having to.
Well, the old Qui-Gon's noble death or whatever on the soundtrack.
Right.
No, Qui-Gon's noble end. Yeah. I think it was called
funeral or whatever. Funeral.
Yeah.
March.
So so on the at the end of the soundtrack, and everyone's like, "Oh, he dies," like that. So I hope there's nothing like that, and I hope it's not similarly. And I've been avoiding this altogether too. Is whenever I see something that looks like a Luke Skywalker figure, I kind of look away. I don't want to know. Like, is he a ghost? Is he a what is he? And I've stopped listening to a few podcasts that were starting to get spoilery.
Really?
Yeah. Like Now This Is Podcasting. They got all the spoilers. I think they probably know the whole Star Wars movie at this point.
So why would you want to talk about that? I don't get it.
I heard they've said a couple things that sounded just like speculation. I'm like, nah, we're getting too close.
Okay.
So I've stopped. I think I'm gonna be apart from next Friday when the toys come out. I'm gonna put myself in the closed off zone except for trailers.
Okay, interesting.
I think so.
See how that works out.
How about you? Are you gonna?
I'm always in the closed off zone except for trailers. You're the one that goes after the information.
I see it on Flipboard sometimes, but
that's the clickbait stuff, right? That's we're trying to prevent that by calling it out.
Right on.
Anyway, that's gonna do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you on the ass.
Going to the Toshi station to pick up some power converters.
TK421, do you copy?
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
I'm taking an awful risk, mate.